So most of you who've logged in, I think everyone knows me, Emily Rassam with Archer Investment Management. So glad that you could join us today. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. We've been having more and more conversations with clients about credit card points, and we thought, why don't we just bring on an expert? As you know, if you've ever been on a meeting with me, we have so many amazing things to talk about. And sometimes we try to cram a little bit of credit card point or travel reward point optimization in. So today we're dedicating an entire hour. We've brought on an expert. We want to keep this practical, engaging, relevant to how you might be using cards. But just like anything, if you go to ask us which card makes sense for me to buy or which travel reward or start using or which travel reward program should I use, the financial planning answer is usually it depends, because it depends on what airport do you fly from, which airlines do you use, which hotels do you like, what are you optimizing for? So there are a lot of different factors that are involved in that recommendation. And so generally we can share some ideas and recommendations for you, but Colin also separately owns a company called Go Somewhere, where he does some additional consultation directly on some of the optimization and selecting some of those points. We think about your wealth holistically. So as you know, we like to look at everything in your life with a dollar sign next to it. And I include points with that too, because points equal dollars that can be spent towards all different types of rewards. It doesn't have to be travel. There are other ways that you can utilize those points and reward systems that you potentially have, but that's something that we want to think about as an asset. It's not play money. It's not monopoly money. It's money that can directly either reduce your travel costs, enhance the travel that you're already doing, and potentially you can use it to gift travel to other people. I have hotel points that I will gift a little weekend getaway to a friend or somebody who might potentially use it. One other thing I wanted to just mention is that last year, I was getting ready to get on stage at a conference for financial planners, and I took a phone call from a client who had recently lost her husband. And she was sorting through his estate and sorting through what she needed to do. And it was about 35 minutes before I had to go on stage, but I always take her call because she's going through a lot at that time. And she said, I've got all of these travel reward points, airline points, hotel points that were my husband's. And what do I do with that? And the topic I was actually about to get on stage and talk about was estate planning. And I had this whole checklist of things I was going to tell other advisors to think about and talk about with their clients. And I didn't have, at that point a year ago, an area for points in travel reward systems. So I ran down to the copy center. I added that as a bullet point to my handout, ran up on stage, gave my talk, and said, I need to really start thinking about what actually happens when we go. The result for that client was she ended up having to go through a probate process for a couple of assets that didn't have a direct beneficiary or a trustee associated with it. So she had to do a small estate through probate. And one of the items on that probate was the point systems. So that's just kind of one thing to maybe think about. So checking maybe some of the program specific rules. Each program is a little bit different as far as how they allow for point sharing or point access. So it might be that you're able to share or pool those points. It might be that you can add a beneficiary to your points system, or some will require some kind of executor involvement, or you can write a letter to go with your estate planning documents that includes that asset as something that your executor can work on. But what we don't want to happen is for those points to evaporate and disappear if something happens to you or somebody that you're potentially inheriting or receiving assets from. So it's just my little financial planning plug right now, is to just think about when you do accumulate this fantastic asset, use it. But if you can't in your lifetime, potentially think about how that might transfer down to the person that you may intend to receive that. So if you are inspired and you're looking at your point systems and you make a change to a credit card you use or anything along those lines, we'd love to know about it. You can link that new card right into your Right Capital portal and let us know about that card. We also always want to know about your fabulous vacations that you're taking. That's why it's the very first topic in our goals and values process, and usually the first thing I ask you about when we meet for meetings. We love to hear about your travel. We especially love to hear about the deals you're getting or any points hacking ideas that you have come up with along the way, or things that you've learned. And also, if we can reduce your travel budget because you're paying for your flights with points or doing something like that, we can also help you reallocate that money towards a different goal. or savings or investing or other things that you might potentially do. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Colin Stroud. I have been following his journey on LinkedIn. Many of you know that I'm on there regularly. And a couple of years ago, he started posting kind of specifically for financial advisors and people who are in the financial community about optimizing points, and been very interested in all these amazing posts that he's had. So if you're on LinkedIn, he's somebody who's great to follow on there. But today you have direct access through the webinar. He has some material he'll be sharing today. We'll be doing some Q&A as well. So please pop your questions into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and I'll take a look at those questions and help moderate a Q&A session with Colin after this presentation. But he's going to walk us through some strategies with your points to optimize and maximize those. So without further ado, Colin, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Emily. I really appreciate you having me here, and it's yeah, super excited. This is such a fun topic. For those of you who don't know me, probably most of you, or follow me on LinkedIn, yeah, someone commented on one of my posts the other day, and they said, "Wow, it must be really." I bet they said, "I'm sure no one over the age of 40 in your family understands what you do," which is kind of funny. So, and it's because I do have kind of a strange job. Like I got into points and miles just for fun, like a lot of people do. And I realized there are just a lot of people who don't understand this stuff and don't know how to get like great value from their points. Starting with my parents, who were earning a bunch of points through their small business and not really getting much value. So I thought, okay, I wonder if I can help people, and maybe I could be like a consultant. So I charged like $45 to somebody to help them with their points. And that was about 2 years ago. And the business kind of went on from there, and I built this, and I've been full time almost a year. So this is what I do all day, is I sit down one-on-one with people like yourself, and I help people come up with better credit card strategies. I focus on high spending business owners, but I kind of talk to everybody still. And I help people plan trips with their points and all that. And then I do a lot of stuff like this. I'm doing like some general education. So I've become kind of an expert on this stuff, and there's always more to learn, like every topic. But you can trust everything I'm saying here is I put a lot of thought and effort into this. So what I want to share today is just some basics, about 30 minutes here of like, how do you win with points and miles? A normal person, not necessarily putting $100,000 a month on a credit card like the guy I met this morning, but a normal person spending a quote unquote normal amount of money, whatever that means. There's a lot of cool things that you can do. And just so you know, I'm a normal person. I don't have a business that spends millions of dollars, and I've done some pretty cool stuff. So I'll be able to share some of my experiences and hopefully help you guys come up with some simple things you can do to earn more points and then redeem the points you have for a lot more value. So hopefully that sounds fun. If that sounds not fun, I'll try and hook you a little bit here in the beginning. So this is what I say, like points and miles. Some people will say this whole credit card rewards world is a waste of time. There was a super viral tweet by this really big influencer. He's like, nothing is a bigger waste of time than credit card rewards. And it got like millions of impressions. And I don't know, he might have just been rage, trying to get some rage out of social media. But I kind of felt a little attack there because like, oh, this is what I do all day. But I think there is a lot you can do, and hopefully I can convince you of that right now. So let's just look at like a normal person, a case study of 62-year-old couple in Charlotte area. So I know some of you are spread out, but Emily's in Charlotte, so I'll focus a little bit on Charlotte for this webinar. If you don't live in Charlotte, totally fine. And a lot of this, almost everything I say will apply to most major airports. Okay, so this person has 200,000 Chase points, 100,000 Citi points. All right, that for those who are brand new, that might sound like a lot. It's honestly not that much. Lots of people have much more than that. So it's a modest amount, about $3,000 worth of points. Okay, so lots of people have that. And this is where it gets into a really interesting, like a really important point that I want you to remember, is that even if you saw that and you're like, well, how these people, there's not enough points, or I just need more, or I don't have enough. Like, this is my thing I tell people. You have enough points, you probably just don't know how to use them very well. Like some people might use $3,000 of points, 300,000 points for, you know, $2,000 of Amazon purchases, and some might use it for, a $7,000 vacation. So you want to be the second person there for sure. So we'll get more into this later. But basically the secret, which it's not a secret, it's very out there, the way that you will use your credit card points to get way, way more value than your neighbors and your friends and the average Joe is going to be transferring points to airline and hotel partners. All of these major travel cards that are out there, many of you have them. You can send points one-to-one to all these different airline and hotel partners. So I'm just going to give you a very quick taste of that right now, and then we can get into a little bit more of the details later. But here's a list of all of Chase's transfer partners. Look at that. Airlines you probably never even thought about, like Singapore Airlines, and airlines you've definitely heard of, like Southwest and United. And they also have some hotels. You can go one-to-one to all these different programs from Chase. A lot of people don't know that. So let's just do something fun. So we're going back to our couple. All right, we don't have a name for them, but they're real people. Charlotte, 300,000 points. They want to do a winter getaway. All right. So, and Emily, I'm always self-conscious about this. 100%, you can see my slides, right? You're seeing them, okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm always just worried. So let's look at this winter getaway. All right. Look on the right side of my screen first. These are flights from Charlotte to Cancun, direct, nonstop in February. The main cabin ticket is $1,300 round trip for 2 adults, okay? But let's look at this. If we go and look at the points price on American Airlines website, all right, so this is just a screenshot from americanairlines.com, nothing crazy, all right? Look what the points price is. It's 40,000 miles plus $260 round trip for 2 people, okay? So typically when you hear miles, think we're worth 1 penny per point. So that would mean that this is $400 worth of miles plus $260 in fees for $1,300 worth of flights. Hopefully you can see there's a huge gap there, and that's where the savings are made. So that's why people will pay me money to help them with trips, because if I can get you, a huge chunk of savings like this, sometimes thousands of dollars, then people are willing to pay to help. But you don't have to pay me anything. You can just learn some of these tactics and do it yourself. So it's pretty cool what we done. I didn't do anything fancy there. All I did was look at the airline, look at the points price. But the question is, it's like, okay, well, I don't have any American Airlines points. Go back to our case study, right? They only have Chase and Citi points. So why is Colin showing me American Airlines? Well, because Citi actually transfers to American Airlines one-to-one. So we can just send those points right over to American and book this flight. And again, we'll get more into that at the end of the presentation. But I want to just kind of give you a little taste there. And then a hotel. So this is the Secrets Playa Mujeres in Cancun. I haven't been to this hotel, but I stayed next door to it and I walked the beach right in front. I can guarantee you it's a pretty awesome hotel. I think it's nicer than the one I was at, but the one I was at was pretty cool too. This place is really nice, very expensive, all inclusive, beautiful. So I'll zoom in. It might be a little hard to see. I understand that. So look at this. This room, this hotel for those dates, the preferred club, so you get like a special section at the beach and maybe a butler or something. It's $1,000 a night for this hotel, okay? But the points price of this hotel is only 44,000 points per night. So what should you hear there? You should hear $440 worth of points for a $1,000 a night hotel. Hopefully you're seeing, like, again, another example of a huge spread there. All right, most people redeem their points at very low values. They redeem their points for like 1 penny per point. Here we're getting almost double that, actually beyond double that. And that's what we're after with this game of points and miles. So this is the just the same information breakdown here. $1,000 a night, 44,000 points. So we look at the full numbers of this, and don't be overwhelmed. It's a lot of math, but just to go very quickly, but simply here. The cash price of the flights and hotels combined is $6,200. You can use $260,000 of your points to get $6,200 trip with only $260 of fees out of pocket, okay? So just to say that one more time, you're using $2,600 worth of points for an over $6,000 vacation. This is basically the game right here. It's how do we find opportunities where our points get us excess value, okay? And I know it's a little confusing because you're probably asking, well, how did you do that? Okay, we'll get into that. But just to give you a taste, like this stuff is possible, and much more dramatic stuff than this is possible if you want to go after it. A lot of the more dramatic deals where, you might use 260,000 points for $10,000 of travel. Those will really be luxury hotels and premium cabin international flights. But even if you just want to, fly to New York City a couple times a year, you can still get really good deals. It may not be as dramatic, but there are really countless cool ways to use your points. So anyway, very fun thing to look at. $260 out of pocket in this case for a 60. Oh, I actually, that number is off. I must have messed that up. $6,200 trip. Doesn't really matter that much. So I'm really excited to share kind of more of how this stuff works because if you can get this, if you can get your brain around this topic, a normal couple, normal family earning 300,000 points per year, instead of those points being worth $2,000 or $3,000, they could be worth $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. And that's where things get really exciting because it's like that's huge savings. So you can do levels of travel that you might not typically afford. Or if you were already paying for this kind of expensive luxury travel, well, you've got a lot more money in your pocket now to invest, to save, to whatever you want to do, like Emily was talking about. So that's really what I'm always after and trying to do for you and for other people. So our agenda today is very quick and simple. How to earn points, what card to use. Everyone asked me that question, so hopefully I can give you a nice little framework and guide to know how to choose a credit card. And then the second part, we'll get a little bit more into what I just kind of hooked you with there, which is how to find some of these really cool deals that I talk about that you might have seen on Instagram or LinkedIn or any blogs you might follow or something. And then we'll definitely have time for some Q&A. So please hold your questions. I'm not going to stop right now for questions. And at the end, we can go through and Emily can moderate that and we can, I'm happy to answer any and all questions. So the game here, the goal is quite simple, right? We want to earn as many flexible, valuable points as possible and then redeem them for as much value as possible, obviously. What does flexible, valuable mean? Let me get to that in just a second, okay? Before we talk about that, I want to talk about cash back versus points. Everyone asks me that. Hey, isn't cash back better? Like, what's this points game seems like a scam. Like, why not just do cash? It's cash. It's in your pocket. It's convenient. It's nice. True, but there's an argument for points, okay? And here's let me tell you why that I do not have any cash back cards, and I will never probably get a cash back card. So cash back is simple, like 1.52% back on everything you spend. Great. That's all it's ever going to be though. So with points, you're going to have a similar level of earning. So 1 to 2%. Sometimes you get more, like American Express has a card that earns 4x on dining, for example, but typically it's going to be in that 1 to 2x, 2% realm. The argument for points over cash back is not that you can earn more of them, but that you can redeem them for way, way more value. Okay. That's where it gets really, really exciting. I just shared an example, right? You used 40,000 points, so $400 worth of points for $1,300 of flights. So you're basically 3xing the value of your points there. You can't really do that with cash back unless someone wants to make an argument for like, investing, which that's a little bit looser argument. It's a whole different thing there. So I'm not going to go into that per se. But basically, if you learn how to use points well and follow some of the stuff I'm sharing here, you can get a much, much higher return on your spend than you would with cash back. But again, that return is only going to come from travel. So if you hate travel, you probably should maybe get off the webinar because I can't help you then. It's like I would assume that if you're here, you're at least somewhat interested in travel. And if you're not interested in travel, maybe I can convince you to be interested in travel because it's pretty awesome. But assuming that all of you are interested in travel, the points thing, there's a very, very strong argument for it. That's the reason why I don't have any cashback cards. So again, I said we're going to come back to flexible, valuable points. Let's get into what that means. So we've thrown out cashback for now for the purposes of this conversation, and we're focused on travel points related cards. All right. But now we say, okay, what cards though? Because there's airline cards. There's my American card. There's my JetBlue card, my Delta card. There's my Marriott card, my Hilton card, my aunt puts all of her spending on an Ulta Beauty card. I've never even been to an Ulta Beauty, but she puts all of her spend on that. So, okay, well, we'll throw out the Ulta Beauty and say, should we do airline cards? Should we do hotel cards? Or should we do the third category that some of you may have, some of you may be less familiar with, which is a bank or flexible points card. A bank or flexible points card would be like an American Express Platinum card, a Chase Sapphire Reserve card, a Capital One Venture card. You've seen commercials for them. You've probably gotten ads in the mail. The airline cards earn points with airlines, obviously. Hotel cards do the same with hotels, obviously. These bank flexible cards, though, they earn more flexible points that are branded proprietary bank points. It's weird. So Chase cards will earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points. Those can be redeemed through Chase's travel portal. They can be transferred to airline and hotel partners. We'll talk about that. But really, your points are way, way more valuable. I think they're more valuable with these flexible ones, and they're more flexible. There's so much more you can do with them. So I'm a huge fan of having the flexible points. Just a very simple example. I met someone spending $200,000 a year on a Southwest Airlines credit card. Okay. You could just spend $200,000 a year on a Chase credit card, earn actually more points per dollar spent, and transfer all of those points one to one over to Southwest. Also, though, you can send it to United and Hyatt and Marriott and IHG and Air Canada and Air France, all these different airlines. So you don't even lose, that person didn't lose anything with Southwest, but they gained so much more flexibility and actually ended up earning more points. So that's why for most people, I'll say these bank flexible cards are going to be the best option. All right. So following our conversation, we're talking about what card to get. We've thrown out cashback cards. We've actually now thrown out airline and hotel cards. They could work for some people, but for the purpose of the conversation, we've thrown them all out. Now we're only focusing here on bank flexible cards. So now the obvious question, which one should I get? And that's where, going back to Emily was saying, it depends. So you have to ask yourself, what do I spend the most on? I just met someone who spends, like, they go out to eat like 5 times a week. I didn't even know people did that really. And so that's a lot of money on dining. So you should pay attention to that. But some people never go out to eat. What kind of travel am I interested in? Am I just looking to go to Florida, save on flights because I have a condo in Florida? Okay, that's a different setup maybe than if you want to go to Europe 3 times a year. Okay, so what airline hotel programs do I want access to? If you live in Charlotte, right? Yeah, American Airlines is like the only airline pretty much, it feels like. So it would be really nice to have American Airlines miles. Well, Citi is the only bank that transfers there. So if you're looking to earn flexible, transferable points, well, it's a really good argument to have Citi if you live in Charlotte. It's a really good argument to have Amex if you live in Atlanta, because Amex is the only bank that transfers to Delta. So Delta being a big, Atlanta being a big Delta hub. So I can't address everyone's personal situation here, unfortunately. That's why I do one-on-one calls, because this does not work in a group setting. But all I can tell you really is choose a credit card based on your spending habits and travel preferences. And to help you do that a little bit better, I do include a resource. So you guys will get emailed this at some point in the next 24 hours, I'm guessing, of my 7 questions to ask before choosing a credit card. It's kind of a nice simple guide to help you choose one of these cards. So hopefully that's helpful to you. And yeah, so let's do a case study. Let's keep it real. Look at a real practical example. Again, a Charlotte-based couple. They love Europe and the Caribbean. They spend $150,000 a year on credit cards. I know people are of all spectrums probably on this call. It's like some people might gawk at that. Some people are like, they only spend 150. So I know there's just bear with me here. There are lots of people who spend that, and this is probably a substantial amount. That it's just so you know, like if you're spending this amount, you should really take some time to think about this, because that's a substantial amount of money that can earn you a lot of points that are very valuable. So we've thrown out Ulta Beauty. We've thrown out cashback cards, airline, hotel cards. We're now looking at the different bank cards that are on the docket. Okay, what card should we get? I'm going to say, and I'm not going to go through the whole process here, but as the expert for this couple, I'm going to say, let's get you a Chase card and let's get you a Citi card. Okay, so this is going to be a very simple 3-card setup. That might be overwhelming to you to think of 3 different cards to balance, and that's fine. You don't have to have 3 cards. You could just do one. But the more, sometimes different cards earn well with different things. So I have a pretty optimized setup here for this person. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can just do 1 card. You just might lose out on a little bit, but that's okay, because you're gaining simplicity. So I say, let's do for this person. Let's put all of their dining spend on the Chase Sapphire Preferred to earn 3x. Let's put all of their all their other spend on the Chase Freedom that earns 1.5x on everything. And let's put all of their groceries, gas, and also dining. So they both double dip in dining here. They can decide on the Citi Strata card, okay? So why am I doing this? Chase, I love Chase. It's like my favorite currency of points. This is a pretty solid earning amount. Citi, why am I looking at Citi? Well, remember, they live in Charlotte. Citi is the only bank that transfers to American. So I can earn Citi points that gives me access to American Airlines points. But you might ask yourself, well, why not just get an American card, Colin, if you're so focused on American? Well, two reasons. American cards do not earn nearly this well on groceries, gas, and dining. They earn like 1 or 2x, okay? So you're earning more points with a non-American card than you would be with an American card. Two, it's nice to earn American miles, obviously, but we don't always want to use American. Like there are exceptions to that. And so it's nice to have the flexible Citi points that can be transferred to like 15 other programs, and you can book any flight hotel you want through Citi's travel portal. So that's how I came up with this setup for this couple. And now, yeah, they're going to earn 300,000 points ish a year doing that. So that's awesome. And now we can talk about what can they do. So this is the fun part. Everyone asks me this. So Colin, great. I get a card, I got points, and maybe some of you are sitting on a bunch of points right now. So this is really what you want to know. So how do I find these deals that people talk about? And let's get into it. It can be challenging, but it's very much can be done. And there's no degree in this. There's no gatekeeping. There's no special things that I have access to. Anyone can do this. But let's define a deal first before we go look at them. A deal is simply where the cash price is really high and the points price is really low. That's what we're after. So I mentioned, so going back to that flight to Cancun at the beginning, the cash price was $1,300. The points price was 40,000 points, aka $400 worth of points. That spread, that arbitrage, whatever you want to call it, is what we're after. So that's a deal, okay? So in this example here, it might be a little hard to see. I put in 40,000 points, and then $1,000 was the cash price, and the fees were $50. So they got 2.38 cents per point. Cents per point is the measurement that all of the points and miles people in the world use to determine how much value you're getting from your points. So typically, your points are going to be worth about 1 cent per point. If we can find a way to get them get more than 2 cents per point, well, that's a huge win. You're winning there. So that's a good goal. It's like, how can we find a way to redeem our points for over 2 cents per point? For anyone holding these flexible bank credit cards, Citi, Capital One, Chase, Amex, right? We've talked about a number of those already. You're really going to have 3 main ways to use your points. You can cash them out sometimes. You can get gift cards. You'll get about 1 cent per point doing that. You can book through the travel portal, which looks just like Expedia or Hopper or Skyscanner or any travel, like third-party booking agency you've used before. You'll get between 1 and 1.5 cents per point doing that. And then the more fun stuff, the exciting stuff that you see online, and this is what I talk about a lot, is transfer partners. You can transfer points to airline and hotel partner programs and potentially get 1 to 10 cents per point. All right, that's not guaranteed though. You're like, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. You have to go find that deal, and it's not always available, but it's certainly possible. I've helped people get over like 12 cents per point. Again, that's kind of a freak thing, but it certainly can happen with international business class flights. But you don't have to go do crazy stuff. You don't have to go eat caviar on your way to Dubai. You can still get good deals like going to Florida, going to the Bahamas, going to California, whatever you want to do. So to help you kind of understand this web of things, and I know it's a little confusing, so just bear with me here if this is the first time you're hearing something like this. Transferring points, like these are all the major banks that allow points transfers, and these are all the programs they transfer to. So we're certainly not going to read through this all, but just to give you a very quick look. So we talked about Chase, right? Chase transfers to World of Hyatt. Citi transfers to American. Amex transfers to Delta. So you see the different airlines they go to, the different hotels they go to. This is a cool chart. This is very much easily Googleable. You could just Google bank transfer partner chart, and something like this will come up. So good resource to have. And one of the other free guides I'm going to send you, there's a similar chart to this, by the way. So to pull back and say, okay, well, how do we find a deal? Let's do it. Let's do a deal. I had just pulled this deal for a client a few days ago. It's a little bit last minute, so I understand it may not be is super relatable because this is next month. Well, yeah, it's next month. So actually, maybe I pulled this like a week or two ago. You don't have to travel last minute to get good deals. This person just happened to be planning a little bit last minute. So Europe, they live in Boston. So Boston to Paris, they're going to go Paris to Zurich, and then home from Zurich to Boston. So they wanted round trip business class flights. So here's what we did. I looked at Chase's transfer partners. They had a bunch of Chase points. And I thought, okay, what program would get me to Paris? Well, look at that. Air France is on there. So Boston, there's a direct flight from Boston to Paris on Air France. So nothing crazy. So I decided, let me go look at the Air France website to see if they have a deal. And they did. So look at that. One way flight, 120,000 points plus $487 for two people. Okay. This is a screenshot from Air France's website. Again, why was I on this site? Because I know that my bank, Chase, transfers one-to-one to Air France. The cash price of this flight is $5,000. So they used $1,200 worth of points plus about $500 in fees to get a $5,000 tickets, which gets us 3.73 cents per point. So if you're paying attention and following, that's really, really, really good. Now they got to get to Zurich from Paris. Okay, this is the trip they wanted to do. They just paid cash for a simple like economy flight on a budget airline to get from Paris to Zurich. It's a quick flight. Now we got to get them home. Oh, by the way, that's the seat, by the way. It's pretty cool in Air France. So here's how we're going to get them home. All right. I found a flight on Swiss Airlines. But and this will be really confusing. If you don't understand this, no problem at all. Don't worry. But I'll tell you. I found, if we go back to our Chase transfer partners, do you see Swiss Airlines on there? No, Swiss Airlines is not on this list of partners. But I don't actually have to be able to transfer to an airline to be able to book a flight on that airline. I know it's confusing, but you can actually utilize airline partnerships to get even really, really good deals. So I can actually transfer points to Air Canada to book that Swiss Airlines flight, which sounds so weird. But if you think about it, it's actually quite simple. The airline, Air Canada and Swiss Air are airline partners. So I just logged on to Air Canada's website and I found this flight, Zurich to Boston in business class for 60,000 points one way per person. I'm on Air Canada's site, but it says operated by Swiss Airlines. As I looked at the cash price on Google Flights, I was shocked to see that it was $12,000, which seems a little ridiculous. I'm not even sure why it was that, but again, that's what it was. So that's direct with the web. Like I'm not lying there. That's just what it was. So the redemption value in this scenario ends up being unbelievable. It ends up being over 10 cents per point. Is this realistic? I don't know. I don't know why the cash price was so high. To me, it seems a little ridiculous, but this is just what they showed me, and this is just what I got from the websites, you know. So 120,000 points plus $227 for $12,000 worth of flights to get home in business class lie flat seats. So it's pretty cool. So that's how like a normal-ish person with a non-crazy high amount of points could use 240,000 points. In this sense, I said Chase, but guess what? Amex, Capital One, and Wells Fargo all transfer to those same partners I mentioned. $714 in fees, and the total cash price of those flights was over $17,000. All right. So again, a normal person spending 150,000 a year could earn that many points. And then theoretically, if they knew what they were doing, maybe they need to give me a call, but they theoretically could get $17,000 of travel from that. When we look at return, right? We look at investment returns, ROI, whatever. I don't actually know how to do that math in my head right now, but that's obviously very, very good math. And it's way above a 1% cashback card or even a 2% cashback card. That's why I'm a huge fan of travel points over cashback. I'm getting close to my time here, but just a few other quick things. A lot of people still are like, well, what in the world? How did you know what to do and go on those websites? How did you know to go to Air France and Air Canada? Like, what the heck are you talking about? Well, I'd study this stuff and got to know these programs really well. But if you don't know anything about airline programs, if what I just said feels like the craziest thing ever, if it makes sense, but you're like, I'll never find that on my own, these are some awesome tools for you guys to remember. Take a picture of this. I think it's in one of the handouts I give, but I'm actually blanking on that. These are all different online tools. They're all between $5 and $15 a month. And what they do is they'll scan all of your bank's transfer partners for you. So if you have Chase points, Seats.Arrow will scan from Charlotte to wherever all 15 partners that you have access to and help find you the very best deal with the 15 partners you have access to. So it's really, really cool what it does. Here's an example, is a screenshot from Seats.Arrow. As an example, it found me a business class flight from JFK, New York to Milan on Emirates, actually. Most people don't know that Emirates flies between those two airports for just 87,000 points in business class plus $101. My favorite is Seats.Arrow, but to be completely honest, it might be a little intimidating to you because it's very ugly interface. It's kind of like an insider type software. So I'd really suggest you start with point.me. They have an incredibly user-friendly, beautiful, simple interface that I think everyone would like and anybody could understand. They even have little tutorial videos. Every time you find a deal in there, they even have a little tutorial video of like, here's exactly how you would book this. They really hold your hand and make it really simple for you. So I definitely would check out point.me. Again, all these have free versions, but it is worth paying for them if you want to get into this stuff. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip the hotel. Well, I'll say the hotel thing real quick.
We're okay on time, Colin. I
Okay.
think this is absolutely valuable and interesting.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I always want to be respectful for questions. But I guess it's only 38 here. But so for hotels, I'll briefly touch on this. Some of the flight stuff I mentioned might have been a little overwhelming. We talk about airline partnerships, booking a Swiss flight through a Canadian thing. You don't have to worry about any of that with hotels. It's very, very simple. There's a few major hotel brands that you can look at, and the only thing you need to know to find a deal is what is the points price, what is the cash price. I stayed at the Park Hyatt St. Kitts in the Caribbean in February with my family. The points price was 30,000 points per night with Hyatt. Okay, it's a Hyatt hotel. 30,000 Hyatt points. How did I get Hyatt points? Chase transfers to Hyatt, so I sent my Chase points over there. Okay, the cash rate was $1,500 a night. So 30,000 points, $300 worth of points for a $1,500 a night hotel. So for 5 nights there, that's $5,000 of savings, right? $1,000 per night. Oh, sorry, it'd be more than that. It would be $1,200 a night or $1,300 a night of savings, whatever. I'm now doing math in my head and it doesn't go well. It was a lot of savings is all you need to know. And Hilton, IHG, Marriott, Hyatt, they're all different programs. A lot of the different banks have access to them. I'll say I am extremely biased towards Hyatt. And if you take anything away from this presentation, it would be the easiest way to win with credit card points and miles is get Chase points, send them to Hyatt, book luxury hotels anywhere in the world with Hyatt. You're almost guaranteed to get above 2 or 3 cents per point. It's pretty amazing what you can do. Here's a very quick, fun example for any of you guys who like skiing. This is a weekend in January, and I'm sorry to not include the dates, but I recently pulled this for a client. By the way, this is what I do. People will reach out to me and I will find them deals and send them, and then they pay me for to do this and walk them through booking. So that when I say a client, I do this for people. This is the Park Hyatt Beaver Creek in Beaver Creek, Colorado. Some of you, I'm sure, have been to this area, super famous ski resort. So the points price for 4 nights here in a standard double room is 180,000 points. The cash rate, which I think is just absolute criminal highway robbery that they would even charge this much, but it's almost $10,000 for 4 nights. So look at that. The standard rate is at $2,400 a night. I just can't even fathom that, like why they're charging that much, but they are. This is what people charge in ski season, I guess. So in this sense, the value you're getting is incredible. You're using $1,800 worth of points for a $9,400 a night hotel. $9,400 stay. And guess what? You have not left the US. You didn't fly to Europe. This is Colorado. This is a direct flight away for most of us to get to Denver or something like that. So it's a pretty amazing deal. And this is peak ski season. I believe this was a weekend in mid-January. 5.24 cents per point. So that's what we're after. And that's why I'm a huge fan of Hyatt. So to wrap up here, some action items for you. You can do this. It's a little confusing. It's a little much, but if you want to dive into this stuff, you certainly can. Step one, put together a credit card strategy. So let's go through the guide I sent you. Start looking at different credit cards that are out there. Ask yourselves those questions that I mentioned in the presentation. Maybe right now all of your spending, like my aunt, goes on an Ulta beauty card. Okay, that's probably not the best thing if you love travel. So even anything is better than Ulta Beauty, right? Let's get it over to a Chase card, an Amex card. Maybe it's not the most optimized setup, but it's still getting you closer to some of the stuff I'm talking about. Step two is the easy, fun part, earn buckets of points. That's going to typically come through spending. I don't advocate personally for credit card churning. You can do it, I'll say. There's certainly ways to do it, but I'm not going to publicly say, hey, I think you all should get 7 new cards a year. I have friends that do that. I have a friend with 45 credit cards, but I do not think most people should do that. So the way that most of you will earn is just simply spending. Step three then is, this will be a big one for you all. Learn how to use points effectively. This webinar started that. It's certainly not everything you need to know. The Daily Drop, so if anyone wants to Google that, Daily Drop, they have this awesome free course. It's like 2 hours of video content. Watch it while you're doing dishes or driving or something. Really, really great content. I'd really recommend to check them out. And then step four is the obvious one, but yeah, you go places, go somewhere. That's why I named the company Go Somewhere, because like I'm not just a mega points nerd. Like I have a family, I have a life, I have a heart and a soul, and I like I love travel. It's been a huge for me, my family, just like my own personal development, my faith, and everything. So like that's why I love doing this, is getting people to go on amazing trips. And so I meet people every day with literally over 1 million points who have been sitting on them for years and they just don't do anything. So I'll say, don't be that person. Maybe some of you, one of you is that person. Don't be that person. Go places, book something, and don't be paralyzed by math and deals and some of the stuff I'm talking about. Like ultimately, the whole point of all this silliness is just to go take nicer trips. I'm just trying to give you some practical wisdom on how to get even nicer trips, but please take the trips. So I'll give you guys these free resources. Emily has the information there. And if anyone ever wants to use me, like I offer 2 main things. I do one-on-one consultations where we'll sit down and talk through some of this stuff for you. The other thing I have is this points research service. So if you have more than 200,000 points and you want somebody to figure all it out for you, hey, find me business class flights to Italy and hotels, figure it all out. I do that. It's kind of a white glove done for you service. And then we would get on a little Zoom call and I would walk you through the booking process. So if you guys want to use me, awesome. You can find all my info at gosomewhere.world. And hopefully that was helpful to you. So I don't think I have anything else right now. Love to take questions. I think I'll stop sharing my screen, Emily. And if you want to moderate questions, then awesome. So ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to start with one about how you see AI entering this space. So is that when you see people typing things into a ChatGPT or some of those types of tools, how accurate do you feel that those results are coming out? Are there any interesting ideas that people are getting out of some of the AI tools that we're seeing more frequently?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the same with financial planning, which I don't know that much about, which is like, it's pretty good until you like notice a mistake and you're like, I really hope someone doesn't pay attention to that because that's a big mistake. I'd assume you've already seen that in financial planning with like more complex topics. It's the same thing. It's like, yeah, ChatGPT or any AI is going to get you a lot of value. It'll get you 89% of the way, but I have already seen it make very frustrating, very large mistakes, both on the credit card side and the redemption, like travel booking side. There's more and more softwares that are coming out that are like AI powered flight search tools. And
Mhm.
so again, like I showed you that one, I mentioned Roam Travel, ROAME, Roam. That's an AI powered tool where you would put in, Charlotte to London, and it would use AI to scan and find the best points deals. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things. I would say AI is not like quite there yet. And I think one of the reasons is that a lot of these airline websites are so locked down by like encryption and stuff that AI can't actually even get data from them. And again, I'm not the tech guy there, so someone correct me. But like for example, no, not a single one of these services is able to get data from Al Nippon Airways, ANA, which is one of the more famous airlines out there, because they don't release any data. So it's like the only way to ever find a deal with ANA is to go on their website and search. AI has not been able to seem to break through So it's just simple stuff like that. It's like, okay, that'll change one day, but today it's you still need a guy to come do it for you or to do it yourself. So yeah, it's been cool to see that work, and I'm trying to stay on top of that myself and build in that world.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have a few questions that are specific to the annual fee that a credit card has. How do you kind of factor in the annual fee, or what is kind of worth it to pay an annual fee for? Because I know that's one of the search criteria. If you go into a Nerd Wallet or one of those types of tools, they kind of focus on that a little bit too. So, what are your thoughts on annual fees, and where is that worth it, and what types of perks make sense to pay an annual fee for?
Great question. It's all about the math, which is nice. There's always a mathematical answer. So I talked about cents per point. That's
Mhm.
important. But also, there's even more simple math than that. So let's look at um, the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, one of the more popular cards. It has a $95 annual fee. When you get it, it has a bonus of 75,000 points. So that's worth at minimum like 750 bucks. So you could argue that that basically pays for the annual fee for the next 7 years. That could justifies that if the annual we round up to 100. So that's one way to think about that annual fee. Um, and then the points you earn if you redeem them well, it could cover that. So like in my mind, anything under $150, most of these cards they completely pay for themselves. But that's level like that's the like the there's a level zero maybe is $0 annual fee cards, level one, which is the 95. And that's like all the personal cards I have are the cheaper cards, $95 ish. Then there's the other realm though. There is the ultra luxury Amex Business Platinum that has like a $900 annual fee now. It just released. And that you
Mhm.
have to be really, really careful because almost all those cards, the right person can easily get more value from the card than they paid for the annual fee. But they're basically coupon books. And so you have to be really, really careful to not just get sucked into the marketing or the coupons and then not actually use them. Or like the new Amex has a $400 a year Lululemon credit. So it's like, yeah, I also like Lululemon, but were you actually going to spend $400 this year at Lululemon? And that's where, and again, you're the financial person, you know that stuff, but like that's where it gets a little tricky. So I am very hesitant to recommend those cards, I will say. However, when you get to another level, so like a small business owner spending 40, $50,000 a month, if there
Mhm.
is a card that has really like earns really well on something they spend on a lot, these annual fees become irrelevant because they're earning millions of points. But for the average Joe, I'm pretty conservative honestly on that stuff, but I don't know. I know lots of people who pay for them. I'm pretty conservative. I'm like I just don't want to pay for that. So you can just do the
Mhm.
math. It's all personal, but I wouldn't necessarily, I'd be the first guy to say like, yeah, just do it. It's totally worth it because you have to be careful there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. So it sounds like kind of that 95 to maybe 195 is that range that most of the good cards are in.
Yeah, there's plenty of great options in that range. You don't have to go far beyond that to find good options. You
Okay.
can, but you don't have to. I
Yeah.
haven't.
We have a question in the chat about how long it takes to transfer between the different point systems. So if I'm sitting here ready to book a trip and I've got to transfer points to a different system, what are you seeing for time frame to get that transfer to happen?
That's a great question. So I mentioned the Daily Drop having that free video course. Again, Daily Drop. You can Google right now, Daily Drop Transfer Partner Cheat Sheet, and they have this really beautiful interactive sheet on their website that shows you the exact timing of transfers between all the different airline programs and banks. Typically, it's instant. So when I transfer Chase points to Hyatt, we talked about, it shows up in 5 seconds.
Okay.
But famously, ANA, Al Nippon Airways, I mentioned, they often take 24 hours. So, so people sit and panic that their flight they found is going to disappear, and sometimes it does. So most of the programs are going to be instantaneous, but you always want to check that, and that's why the Daily Drop, that cheat sheet they have, is super helpful. So if you're getting ready to transfer, you should definitely be prepared for it to take up to 24 hours, but it should be instantaneous. There's a few weird foreign programs that like I've heard can take up to 3 days, but again, typically it's going to be instant, and that's the ones. Those are the better programs to look at anyway. You don't want to be messing around with like your points in limbo for 3 days. That's
Mhm.
stressful, right?
If you end up changing your mind, if you transfer to one of those transfer partners to an airline or hotel, are you able to transfer the points back to the bank, or is it kind of done once the transfers occurred?
Yeah, that's a great question. That you want to be very careful. So the answer is no. Once you've sent them over, you cannot get them back.
Yeah.
So what I always tell people is if you want, if you're, let's say you're booking a flight, it should be done in one setting. You should have the flight pulled up on Air France's website. You should have refreshed the page in the last 5 seconds, and you should be 100% sure that flight is still available. Open up another tab, log into your Amex, log into your Chase, transfer the points to Air France. They show up in Air France, book it right there. Don't let any more time than necessary pass. Sometimes people will find a flight, they're like, oh, I found it. And then 5 days later, they'll transfer points and go to book it. And they're like, wait a minute, where'd it go? Honestly,
Mhm.
that's just how this stuff happens. Is just sometimes it gets booked up, it disappears. So you really want to be careful with that. I've never had that issue myself, but I have heard horror stories, of like transferring 1 million points to a program where they found a great deal, the deal disappeared, and now it's like you have 1 million points with a really random program like Singapore Airlines. And what do you do with that? It's like they're stuck. So it's yes, you got to be careful there.
Yeah. Okay, great. We did have a question here. So somebody had read a couple of stories on blogs that there's legislation being considered that might impact rewards programs. Are you aware of this? Any truth to this? So is that something that you'd like to share anything on?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, the last webinar I did, someone asked that, which is, I think it's a great question. Yeah, Senator Dick Durbin, I believe, from Illinois, it's the Credit Card Competition Act. And the goal of that is basically to reduce interchange fees. So that's how credit card companies make money, right? I swipe my card at Walmart and whatever, 2.6% or whatever goes to American Express. They want to get that out and they want to pass those fees on to the merchant, which as a small business owner, I like the concept of that, but it would kind of gut rewards. This exact thing passed in Europe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago or something. Don't quote me on those numbers. Europe no longer has like strong credit card reward programs. But I recently met with the founder CEO of Rove, so Rove Travel. It's a brand new like universal currency, like points currency, and he's focused more on like shopping, and that's apparently how they do it in Europe. So it's like you're earning a lot of points from it's a shopping browser, like for online shopping, and they think if this passes, that points won't die. The points will come from the merchants, not the credit card companies. So he thinks that the points system will stay alive if this passes. I don't know. It'll certainly be different. I don't know if it'll pass because Americans really like their points. I just it's hard for me to imagine like Jamie Dimon at Chase allowing this to pass. He seems like a pretty powerful guy, and so but I don't know. Maybe it will. We'll see. Like I don't know politics, but it's all politics. And I know they tried to sneak it into the big bill that just passed, but then like the vice president blocked it, and I don't understand like what's going on. But it's certainly in the like the churn of Congress, and it could happen. We'll
Mhm.
see, but it would definitely change points a lot. So I do tell people like, hey, if you're worried about points ending and you have points, like let's now is the time to live, enjoy them because they may not be here in 10 years, at least in the way that we currently understand them. So if you want to call me for a job, if that happens, then you can if you're hiring because I'll be out of work. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of kind of spending points now, somebody brought up the point of inflation. And so their
Oh
experience had been that they used to have a lot of these points that they've accumulated and felt that there's a massive inflation of how many points you had to use to book the same flights. They also happen to have school age children and they're much more limited to when they can travel. And so it felt less worth it to accumulate all of these points and then be restricted to traveling during that time and having, to really be stuck on really specific timeframes or airlines. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody in that kind of position?
Yeah, well, the very best deals are not typically going to you see in the very peak times. School is easier to handle sometimes than trying to think of other some schedules are more inhibiting, but like you have the whole summer theoretically, so you can be a little bit more flexible if you're strictly following a school schedule. Obviously, summer is a more peak time. But yeah, that is another reason I'm a fan of these flexible currencies over just airlines. So if you only have an American Airlines card and it's time, the kids are out of school, it's time to book a flight. It's like it's go whatever American Airlines has is what you are forced into that. What's nice about having flexible points is that say American Airlines has no option, you still have like 14 other options to try and find a deal, and you can still book any flight you want at any time, no blackout dates, any of that. through the travel portals. So Chase Travel, Amex Travel, City Travel. So that's nice. And I've used that when I've had like exact dates where I had no flexibility and I couldn't go after one of these more, home run deals. It's like, yeah, you just book through Chase Travel and you can still earn and use points, and do pretty well. And I think you can still potentially beat cash back, there. And I think, yeah, I can't remember if there's another part of your question, but I think that answers it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that the final question is about buying points. So I know when I log into different travel systems, it will have on there, spend X dollars and buy a block of points, or we'll give you bonus points if you buy points right now. How do you see that typically play out, and what makes that worth it?
Yeah, that comes back again to the math and cents per point. So you just got to run the numbers. So I saw an example. What was it? So you could buy Hilton points at 0.5, so 50 cents per point. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just say 0.5 cents per point. You could buy them at. And then I had posted a deal on LinkedIn to stay at the Waldorf Astoria in Monarch Beach, so right near Laguna Beach, Southern California. Super beautiful hotel on the water. And the redemption value we were getting for Hilton points there was about like 1.8 cents per point. Okay. So hopefully you can see that spread. You buy them at 0.5, you redeem them at 1.8, or whatever I said there, and you have that nice spread. Now you still spent money to get the points, but you get a spread. So I would say you should only buy points with a specific redemption in mind, because then you can just do the math. So if I'm buying points this morning to know that tonight I'm going to redeem them, I'm going to go book that Waldorf Astoria, I know there's going to be that spread, you've gotten a good deal. But I wouldn't just randomly buy points and just hope that you find something good eventually, unless it's a program that is really known to be good and you like, um, and you there was this crazy deal to buy points, but frankly that just doesn't happen that much. So yeah, Award Wallet, I'll say it again, is an awesome blog, and they publish like all the different deals and promotions and sales to buy points every month. So that'd be a good thing to Google. Google Award Wallet buy points promotions, and they have like all the info on that for anyone who wants to buy points.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And we had a couple of questions that were a little more specific about certain cards. So we're going to take a look at those questions and get back to those couple individuals specifically. But
Okay.
Colin, I really appreciate you coming out and sharing your wealth of knowledge. So again, we'll send out some resources that you've shared with us to everybody who's joined this call and everybody who's going to be watching the recording. This is very valuable. And again, thank you. And one other thing I was going to say about Colin is his website is so cute. He's got his family on there, but favorite places he's traveled and some of information about some of his favorite cards. So I'd also check his website out. And then I've also found some value in his LinkedIn content because he'll put out there, hey, I found this great deal. And so there's some specific ideas. So for those of you who are on here that say, I have 50 places I'd be interested to travel and I'm totally flexible on time frame, where do I start? I have this travel paralysis. Sometimes kind of getting some of those ideas kind of fed through his LinkedIn or other sites like that, I think will be useful as well. So thanks again for joining us today. Thank you, Colin, for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Emily. Really appreciate you. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me, LinkedIn, email anyone on here. Love to connect with you. So thanks so much again.